Hey everyone, John Lorden here. Welcome to another episode of Itchy Mysteries. Thank you so much for stopping by today. This episode is being recorded for April 19th, 2018. And sometimes I look to your suggestions for films. Occasionally I go looking for something on my own. I watch a bunch of trailers. There was one trailer that caught my attention. It was for a film that came out in 2017, and it is called The Giant Killer. Sounds right up our alley, right? Especially for this channel. Is it? Well, we're going to find out. There is a lengthy plot summary written at IMDB. I'm actually going to read you kind of my edited version of it. It's actually written by the person that directed it, who happens to be a police officer, and this story is primarily about his investigation into someone. So let's go ahead and learn what this is about. Miami police officer David Yazook befriends a tiny homeless man, and after 15 years of friendship, the man, Richard J. Flaherty, finally reveals who he really is. His 4'9" tall, 95-pound friend claims to be the smallest man to have ever served in the U.S. military. Flaherty agrees to provide some documentation and newspaper articles, but warns Yazook not to look into an undercover operation Flaherty worked in the 1980s with federal agents. Quote, "Dave, if you look into the case, it could be real bad for your career and bad for my health." Yazook is compelled to check into Flaherty's entire story. He makes a phone call to someone that apparently also worked on this case, a federal agent that's now retired, and only 6 hours after that phone call, Flaherty is killed by a hit-and-run driver on the streets of Miami. So certainly some interesting aspects, and the trailer kind of grabbed me because of that particular line, kind of the last line we touched on there. There's a phone call looking into this guy's past, confirming that he worked on this undercover operation, and then literally 6 hours later, the guy is dead. I mean, it certainly sounds like an itchy mystery to me. Is that really what we get in this? Not really. Got to be honest with you guys, I'm kind of disappointed, but there's other things to appreciate about this film, so let's talk about it. I don't think the trailer is a good representation of what this film is. The trailer is trying to excite you with this thought that you're going to be kind of investigating a murder mystery that has some potential ties to something going on with this undercover operation, or maybe some of the other activities that Richard J. Flaherty was a part of. What you really get in this film is one scene at the very beginning that is extremely compelling because it's essentially the setup. It's the cop on the phone talking to someone about this mysterious operation, and then you hear that the next morning Flaherty is found dead by some type of hit and run. But the next, I would say, hour, possibly more, really has not much to do with any investigation. While it works against it because my expectations kind of got dashed by the trailer and by the first scene in the film, there are some things that really work for it in that way because this is a really interesting story. This guy is a very interesting character. You're talking about someone that wasn't even supposed to be able to get in the military. He's only 4'9", and they have a 5-foot limit. He finds his way to getting a special pass for him to get into the military. While he's in the Army, he becomes a captain in the Green Berets. He gets a Silver Star, 2 Bronze Stars, 2 Purple Hearts, serves in Vietnam and in Thailand. It is a pretty amazing story. Admittedly, I'm not the biggest kind of war media person, but even despite that, most of this worked pretty well for me because it's really about this story of this guy that's kind of too small, and everyone kind of, at first, when they first see him, they double take, but then they learn he is, I think one of them specifically says, hard as a rock. And then it's interesting because he falls out of the military and you get to kind of hear his struggles. There's a lot of his former military buddies that are interviewed, and they talk about their struggles also coming back from Vietnam. So it's a good dose of kind of the historical perspective on how the country kind of turned on the soldiers at that time. but this really kind of cool story about Richard J. Flaherty and his struggles throughout life. It's not a perfect picture that is painted. They talk about crimes that he committed and almost how those crimes actually fed into him getting hired, working on this undercover operation. And then there's a bunch of amazing questions, like they find out that he has been traveling while he's supposedly living homeless, like literally traveling all over the world. And who's funding that if the guy, is homeless and only making a couple $100 on Social Security or some type of military pension? So a lot of very interesting and intriguing character is in this film. However, the real itchy mystery that I was looking for just isn't there. And there is a segment in particular where they have Agent Fred Gleff, I believe is his name, talking about the undercover operation. And it's really not that exciting. And it's literally like this one long segment of this guy being interviewed. It really bogged everything else down. And ultimately, after you're done watching the film, when you look back on it, I'm not really sure how much of a purpose it served. And that's kind of how you feel about this movie if you keep it in that wrapper of, oh, this is supposed to be an intriguing mystery. Was this guy murdered because someone was looking into his past with this undercover thing? It all really fizzles out. The truth of the matter is there is no mystery here. As a matter of fact, it seems to me that David Yazook was trying to put this film together in a way where it would appeal to other people, and he used that as kind of the context for it. But it's not really believable context because what you come to learn is that the case of him being killed actually gets solved in about a day, and it doesn't take much research at all. So it works, like I said, in some ways because you've got this great character. You've got a really neat friendship between him and the officer. It's nice to hear all of these officers and firefighters talking about this guy that he was around, while they're growing up, that they were kind of trying to take care of him the best they could, giving him an opportunity to shower in the firehouse and doing some stuff like that. There's a lot of great humanity in this film. And I know that many of you out there watch some of the stories I cover because I try to bring that humanity into the stories also. If I'm talking about a missing person, I'm trying to learn about who they are and does that apply to the case, but mainly so that we get a feeling of these are real people. This works on that level, but in terms of it really being some type of interesting investigation, it doesn't work at all. You basically have this officer that has a really kind and big heart that learns about this guy, and that is really interesting to me. That really, really works. That after Richard passes away, that the officer goes to learn even more about him. All of that, it comes from such a good place that it's hard for me to knock this film too much, but I have to say, I don't know if David came up with this on his own or if he talked to some marketing person that said, hey, this would be a lot better if you wrapped it up in this story about a potential murder mystery angle. Whoever made that decision did not do this film a service. If you cut off the first 2 minutes and cut off the last 10 minutes, you still get an extremely compelling film about a platonic friendship that maybe in some people's perspective should have never really worked, but it did in this case. And you get two guys that seem to really care about each other, and one of them that wants to understand more about his friend after he passes away. That sounds like a great enough story to me. I don't need a fake mystery kind of wrapped around that to sell it, at least from my perspective. But can I really knock it? No. I mean, the trailer worked, right? Got me to watch it under the pretense that it was some type of deep, itchy mystery. But unfortunately, it really isn't. So for the terms, for what I'm looking for in films to share with you guys, this rates a 9.3 on IMDb. It's only got 15 votes, but it does rate a 9.3. And specifically for it being an itchy mystery, I give this thing like a 5, but I am going to bump it up a little bit because it is such a good compelling human story that is going on in here. That if you're able to not let yourself get wrapped up in the first scene and think of how interesting and how well shot that is, and there's great music through all of that, if you could lower that expectation a little bit about there being some really intriguing murder mystery in this, I think you'll enjoy this film a lot more. So I'm going to take it up to a 6.5, but I really can't push it much higher than that because ultimately I kind of feel duped a little bit. I'm happy that I watched it. I'm happy that I know this story. That's how I'm going to leave it. Are you guys going to check it out? The Giant Killer. If you're looking for an interesting character study, or if you like the military angle in particular, I think you will really enjoy this. There is a heavy focus on that. Even the undercover stuff, if you want to hear about the type of operation that he was working on, where they were essentially busting other military members that were leaking weapons and munitions out of a base and selling them. Pretty interesting stuff on that front as well. But in terms of an itchy mystery, kind of a miss. So, hey, happens sometimes, right? Thank you so much for joining me today. Hope you guys have a wonderful day. Really looking forward to tomorrow when I'm going to share the information on the Missy Beavers case with you guys that I was able to get together with the help of a new friend that you're going to learn all about tomorrow. So hope to see you guys there. Take care, and please come back to the Lord and Arch channel.